Hello, hello. This is Sheri from the Sheri K. Hoff Show, where we focus on living joyfully and successfully in your life and business. Visit us at sherikhoff.com. That's SherikayehOff.com. Meet my guest today, Amisha Shrimanker. She is a fractional CMO. That's Chief Marketing Officer and works with 7- and 8-figure companies. Her past titles include launch copywriter, strategist, optimization expert. She uses all those skills to help her clients grow their revenues in online education and professional service businesses. Obsessed with results-driven marketing, Amisha consults on marketing strategy, oversees implementation, and ensures that growth targets are met, even exceeded. You are going to love her. Hi, Amisha. I'm so excited to have you here today. How are you?
Hey, Sheri. I am thrilled to be here myself. I am doing good. Thank you.
Good. Well, we have a lot to unpack here and so much to bring to our listeners. So let's just jump right in. So I want to start by just asking you, you are a fractional CMO. And so a lot of people don't know what that is. So what is a fractional CMO?
Yeah, for sure. So a fractional CMO is a fractional chief marketing officer. It's a C-suite person who leads your marketing team and a strategy on a part-time basis, if you will. This is not a full-time employee as part of your organization. So some businesses can't afford a full-time CMO because those are in the 6-figure pay range, or they're not ready for someone like that. So this is someone who comes in, works with your organization for a short period of time and helps you meet your goals faster, but for a fraction of a pay. That pretty much sums it up.
Okay. And so what types of things does a fractional CMO do?
There are 3 things mostly, well, maybe 2. So fractional CMO, they create the marketing strategy for a company, depending on their goals and where they are and where they want to go. They create the marketing strategy and they manage and lead the marketing team to hit those goals.
Okay, so let's backtrack a little bit here, and I want to hear, and I know our listeners love this aspect, the backstory of how you ended up, like, what's your path? How did you end up here as a fractional CMO working with service-based businesses?
Sure. So I've been in the online marketing space, I want to say almost 5 years now. I started off as a conversion copywriter. So I would work with online marketers who were digital course creators, who were launching memberships, high ticket coaching programs. I would be brought in to strategize their launch campaigns and then write the copy for them. So this is sales pages, email funnels, and give them marketing help and insights as to what their pre-launch campaign should look like, all the way until the last day, the last email that would go out. So I would be with them anywhere from 60 to 80 days typically, and oversee all of that. So yeah, I was a launch copywriter in my past life.
Okay, so is that something that you always knew you wanted to do, or did you fall into that before the CMO role? I mean, were you like a ballet teacher? Were you? Because when I was in my 20s, coaching didn't exist, and the whole online world really wasn't there anywhere close to the way that it was. And I started my online business 15 years ago. And it's way different now, of course, than it was 15 years ago, even what it was a year or 2 ago. So,
for sure.
So what made you enter the online space?
Great question. So I've always been an entrepreneur for most of my adult life. I started my first business in my kitchen, and it was a sales and a marketing agency where I would work with American food manufacturers here and talk to them, and none of these companies exported. And because I have that background, I mean, I didn't grow up here. I've lived, in Europe. I've lived in Asia, Middle East. I've been traveling around. I kind of knew what those countries were importing food wise. So I was the sort of the middleman who would take care of exporting American food products, taking care of the marketing and the selling and all that, overseeing the logistics to make sure that the products would, get to the importing country and all of that. So that was my path for, I want to say 7 to 8 years. And it took a turn when I had my second child, my daughter, and she was a preemie. And up to that point in my business, in my international export business, food export business, I used to do a lot of travel, a lot of trade shows and, meeting clients. And obviously I was working out of my home office, but my clients were overseas, right? I had to go out and meet them, meet manufacturers here locally and kind of like, do my marketing, a lot of travel involved. And I was kind of like looking to slow down. I'm like, all right, I've got 2 kids. My son at the time was like 5 and I had done extensive travel by then. And I'm like, I need to slow down because I need to be home more often and home and not travel all the time. And I was like, all right, what can I do that can afford me that lifestyle while I'm raising my kids? Because I'm certainly not going to be traveling for the longest time. And online marketing, the online world was that kind of solution, was the answer. And I started in 2016-ish. I was kind of like finding my way around. All right, what can I do? Can I do coaching? Can I offer services? Can I do social media? What is it that's going to be a fit for me and helps me with my hours and, so I can still be there for my kids. And a couple of years, did a bunch of things, tried a bunch of things. In 2018, I finally said, all right, you know what? I think I can do copywriting. I'm good at optimizing or looking at improving words on my website and my emails. I've done it for other people. I didn't know that this was a thing that you can get paid for and get paid for handsomely. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go all in copywriting. And yeah, that was 2018. So.
Yeah. So one thing that I find with a lot of people, that are like you and like me, entrepreneurial in spirit, is that it's a constant evolution. Like you moved from what you were doing into the copywriting space, the online space, and then you moved into the fractional CMO space. So what happened in the in-between that made that a natural move for you? Because like I know with my own process, I have this moment where I know that a shift or change is coming and it can be painful and exciting, but painful too, because you start to have a certain comfort level. So tell me what that was like for you.
Yeah, it was crazy. And there's a lot of discomfort because it's kind of like telling yourself, like, can I do this? Like, am I not supposed to be on this path forever? Meaning, like, what's wrong with me, right? Those are the first things that come up. Like, why can't I just stick to one thing? And you're right, we're entrepreneurial in spirit. We're always evolving. And for me, that point came around last summer, 2022, when I was knee deep in a client's launch when I was writing emails. And I think I had written up to 20 emails at that point, and I was writing the 21st launch email in that sequence. And I was like, you know what? I don't think I enjoyed this work anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to write somebody else's launch emails. Like, is this all I'm going to be doing? Like, working on a launch and what if I can solve other problems? What if I can solve a bigger problem in this client's business that's just beyond launching now and then, right? Because launch itself, it brings up a lot of feelings for a lot of entrepreneurs. And these are people that I know, right? Like, oh my gosh, there's a launch coming. There's that negative connotation. And do that 2 or 3 times a year. It's like, okay, here we go again. So I didn't want my business to be on that dependency of, someone launching or not and putting all my eggs in one basket. I'm like, I know I can solve bigger problems than this. Like, I know why this client's launch probably fail because they are not generating enough traffic on a consistent basis, right? This is like sort of a launch related problem, but yet it's not. It's another whole thing altogether on its own. Like, hey, how about we work on a traffic regeneration campaign or something? That's not launch related and has very little to do with copywriting. But yet I was looking for those opportunities. Like, what else can I do to improve this client's business? And that's when I knew, like, you know what? I need to do something bigger, more strategic, more less done for you, because writing copy for hours and hours, it can kind of like, you just get relegated to this done for you service provider / order
Mhm.
taker. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I think I'm meant for bigger things, more strategy. And that's
Mhm.
when I started like Googling, like, what else can I do with the skills that I have? And yeah, this kind of came up on my radar.
Yeah, and I love the natural progression of that, and I also love how you honored how you were feeling, because so
Yeah.
many people just dismiss that and just like, well, this is what I'm really good at, and I'm going to keep on doing it, even though the happiness factor starts to go down a little bit. And also what I see is when that happens to people, a lot of times people just give up the whole entrepreneurial thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just say, this is not for me, instead of saying, okay, I'm being led to something a little bit different. I had my own evolution. I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I even ran my own business when I was in college. And then I had a terrible business experience that really
Mm.
burnt me when it came to thinking about business. So I was in the corporate world for quite a while, and getting my higher degrees in higher education, because I really saw, I've always seen myself as a mentor. Every part of every job I've ever had, the mentoring, the training,
Yeah.
always was my most fun thing. And so I thought, oh, I'll work in higher education. So everything I did pushed to that. And then when I got to higher education, and I loved it, but I also had that moment of realizing, whoa, this isn't it. Like, I thought I would retire, teaching out of college. And when I had that moment, I thought, holy cow, I spent all this money on, my higher education to do this one thing. And it took me about 6 months of journaling, because it was kind of a crisis
Yeah.
in my life. And since then, so that was in 2006-ish, 2007. I started my business in 2007. And I just woke up one morning and I knew, after journaling and doing all kinds of self-awareness, this is the thing that I want to do. And I was terrified, because I still
Mm.
had that energy of a bad experience, that limiting beliefs that were kind of festering. So I just love to hear about people's processes when they're ready to move into a different area. And I think it helps so much for other entrepreneurs to hear. And one of my podcast guests is a serial entrepreneur. And I asked him, and he said that he notices that he all of a sudden his passion wanes. Like, when he notices his passion isn't really high anymore, he knows it's time to start a new business, to sell the
Yeah.
one he has, or have someone else run it, move into something else. And the strange thing is one of my things, and people listening might relate to this, is depression. Like, if I
Mm.
start to notice depression, because I'm a really upbeat, happy person, instead of going, oh my gosh, I'm so depressed, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, this is my signal of what do I need to do to ignite my passion again. So I love that you shared your process with us. And I know so many people, women especially, become entrepreneurs because they want that freedom of schedule. And still, that freedom of schedule is probably one of my highest number one, beyond,
Yeah.
of course, making a difference and changing people's lives. And right under that,
Yeah.
freedom of schedule, because I got to be the carpool mom, and the mom who would pick up the kids after their
Yeah.
sports practices. And I wanted to do that. And when I worked in the corporate world, I also traveled a lot. And I realized I was missing out on a lot. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, it doesn't mean you don't work hard and put a lot into your business, but you have that freedom. You could say, okay, from 3 to 5, I'm going to do this. And then, this other time I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to hiring a fractional CMO, at what point in the business? Because I know for service-based businesses, small businesses, there is a lot of fear when it comes to finding the right person, having the budget. Are they jumping too fast? Are they not moving fast enough? So what's your advice?
Yeah. So when is it a good time to hire a fractional CMO? I think when you've really, numbers wise, when you've at least hit $1 million in your business, because at that time, when you get to 1 million, you have a product or an offer that's proven, right? There's proof of concept for sure. I'm not saying you have to have a big team or anything, because I have seen lean businesses, maybe with like even 3 team members, scale to $1 million. But when I say you need to have $1 million, and why this is so important in a way is because when you're hiring a fractional CMO, the fractional CMO is just going to come and do strategy work for you. It's going to say like, all right, this is the best strategy this is the marketing campaign that we should execute to hit say you've got a membership, to say, to hit your membership goals. Say we started January 2nd, and by March 30th, we need to have had additional 200 members in your membership. This is the strategy. This is the roadmap that I'm going to lay out. And in order to execute this, we need a copywriter to, write launch copy. We need a blogger. We need a videographer who's going to like take videos and edit them. So the point is, if it's $1 million business and, a little beyond, they can pay for the fractional CMO services and possibly even have that room for marketing budget to bring in a team member if they don't have one in the team already. So sometimes I work with clients who may have 2 team members, like, hey, we have a copywriter and we have a director of operations. Okay, cool. Not a problem. And if you're going to bring me on board, I have a fee. But if I think that you need X, Y, and Z person on your team as well, do you have the marketing budget to bring those? And I'm not saying that they need to be like 6-figure hires. No way. It could just be a junior marketer, right? Someone who will come and write your blog post, or someone who would write social media captions. Like, do you have the budget for even, hiring those people? And then once you have those hires, then it's my job as a fractional CMO to tell them that, this is the campaign, these are your responsibilities, and this is what we need to do. So that revenue milestone is important when I am choosing to work with companies, or if you're choosing to bring on a fractional CMO, know that. So if you're less than $1 million, it's going to be tight because you're paying for CMO services and you will have no budget left over to bring in marketing help. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah. And so I'm going to ask a really practical question here that people might be thinking, because I thought of this, is how many clients do you work with at any given time?
I have, my limit is up to 5. 5 is like, that's it. And I have a 3-month commitment with any client that I onboard. Like, we need to work together for 90 days. Mm-hmm. Because that's 30 days. The first 30 days are really determining strategy. I'm doing a deep dive audit into their businesses to see what's working, what's not, what are the numbers looking like, looking at everything what's going on. And then the next 60 days are spent on implementation. So with that, having said that, 3 to 5 clients is the most that I work with at any given time.
Okay. So I think that's important for people to know that, so that they know that, they're not one of 20.
No, that would be a marketing agency.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So also, what about the model where, and I see this a lot, and I use this model myself at times, is to, when you hire an agency, I don't mean you, I mean business owners, hire an agency where they get their project manager, their virtual assistants, their marketing people and it's all outsourced. So they aren't W-2 employees. It's all outsourced to a service. So is that something that you can work with, where you can come in and, give direction for those same people? Or do you look at it, no, it needs to be more solid. You need to have those W-2 people?
Oh, yeah. No, it's okay. I mean, I'm okay if you have contractors on your team. They don't need to be full-time hires. But at the same time, Yeah, as long as they're contractors, they don't have to be full-time hires for me to kind of like get the work done. The only reason I kind of dissuade people to go to an agency, and I'm not dissing on agencies or anything. I was a boutique agency owner myself. It's just that the agency, say you hire a Facebook ads agency, they come in with just helping you with that tactic in their business. They're not looking at they don't have a holistic view of the business. So it's just one tactic, right? But yeah, but with a CMO, they're kind of like looking at, okay, what were the CPMs? This is the Facebook ad report. All right, we've got that data. What else can we do? So we're looking at a more holistic picture. With an agency, you don't get that strategic help and leadership, as in with a fractional CMO who is investing that time, that 3-month period minimum into your business, and they are with you. They are in the Slack channels every day with your team, and they're seeing what's getting done and what's not getting done. But they don't have to be full-time hires to make it work.
Right. Because, I think what I want to make clear to people is I'm not talking about like the one-off, and I know you know this, but I'm talking from, my listeners' viewpoint. We're not talking about the one-off person that you hire for, a 2-week project off of Upworks or something like that. We're talking about when you have like a VA service company where you have like a dedicated project manager, and then you have a dedicated VA, someone who knows you, gets to know your business, gets to know your flow. And in that particular way, I can see that working really effectively with a CMO. So
for sure.
So, because you've got, people working with you on your vision and things like that. So.
Yeah. I would work with a marketing manager and a director of ops, because those are really important roles and very important to a fractional CMO success too, because you put me together with the director of ops in your company, and that person's going to make things happen. Right. They have that mentality. They have that mindset. They have the qualification to like, all right, what needs to get done so we can kind of like bring this marketing campaign to life.
So what would be, can you throw out some examples of measurables that someone might see from hiring you as a fractional CMO?
Yeah. So obviously there are no promises, right?
Right.
We always work on like, okay, this is the best outcome. And the only promise I make is I'm going to work really hard to see what we can do with everything that I know about your company after I've done my deep audit. And this is what I think we need to do to, say, improve traffic to your membership sales page, or say, optimize your email funnels. And I'm like, all right, let's hit this KPI, kind of like give them an industry benchmark. And that obviously depends on the niche that they are in and the industry that they're in. And I try my best to hit those goals. And then whatever data we get whenever we run a campaign is data, and which is great. Even if I take the client through a test launch, like, all right, you haven't launched in a while, let's just launch with whatever you got. Because even if we go through just a test launch, whatever data we get, that's great enough for me to say, all right, what do we want to do with this data moving forward? It's end of 90 days. This is the data. This is my recommendations if we're going to continue to work together. But I do want to say that I do have a data-driven process in terms of how I decide, all right, what campaigns are we going to work on? Like, obviously, I have I have ideas for a fast cash campaign, for example, right? All right, I think we need to inject some quick cash into your business. What can we do? These are 3 to 4 strategies that I can come up with. Let's implement one that suits, that meets you where you are right now. So I can tell them that, or I can say, all right, this is another marketing campaign that we can test to see if this is going to bring in lots of leads for the first, for the next 60 days. Let's just test this. The point is, we don't want to test too many things at once. It's just one marketing campaign, because otherwise there's going to be a lot of overwhelm. You're going to have team burnout, and they're going to be like, all right, we're not accomplishing anything. So it's just really one campaign, and we take it step by step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I like the data-driven aspect. And also, no matter, I practice this for myself too, that it's all data. So even when something doesn't work, you've learned, okay, this is what happened this time, what's going to happen next time, and you have
Yeah.
something to measure it against, and you have, yeah. So no matter what, that deep audit is going to be highly valuable no matter what the next steps are. So
Yeah.
I also think, who wouldn't love a quick cash campaign? Almost everyone needs some kind of cash
Right?
infusion, so that sounds like a great place to start.
Yeah, exactly. Like we have like tons of those strategies like in my toolkit, like, all right, based on this, let's do this. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you have? Like, what's your motivational little, 1-2 punch for the entrepreneurs out there? Because the challenge in being an entrepreneur is you're self-motivated. You've got to motivate yourself. And so what keeps you motivated? And, what do you have to say to motivate everybody?
Oh my gosh, there is so much here. But I think what I would say, and because of the role that I'm in, my deepest hope for all the entrepreneurs out there is to stay in their genius, right? You're the visionary. I can't do that for your business, but you can. But the problem, and that hurts me, and that's where I think I'm kind of the solution here is, you're the CEO and you're the CEO slash CMO, because here's a vision that you have for your business, but you're so deep in the marketing trenches, like, all right, what campaigns can I think of? What should we do to launch this? What should we do to increase this traffic here? I think those are the things that you should not be thinking about. And the sooner you can get out of that, marketing role for yourself, because a lot of entrepreneurs do that, the better. And you can kind of like delegate that to somebody else. Like, all right, this is my vision. This is what I want. I want to work fewer hours. This is what I want to make. All right, tell me, what can you do? And that is like, all right, let me let me take the wheel on this one. Right. So that's my hope for a lot of the entrepreneurs. Try as much as possible staying in your genius zone and delegate the rest. And it's not easy because there are so many levels of growth, depends where you are in your business. But if you're at the high six figure mark, approaching million, and maybe Sheri, some of your listeners are crossing that $1 million mark, is to kind of start thinking of that. Like, all right, what do I need to do to get rid of marketing off my plate altogether and just stay in my visionary role and delegate that or outsource it completely?
Yeah. And I find too that usually the marketing piece is the least favorite piece for entrepreneurs, and it's the most essential piece, especially if it's just you or you and a small team. You are the marketing force, and it does sometimes take away from, well, it does a lot of the time take away from new product development, new service development, and also I think it contributes a lot to the shiny thing syndrome.
Yes.
Like, I'm going to do this new process. So but there is fear that entrepreneurs have too, though, is when they delegate the marketing, of wanting to make sure that their voice is still in the marketing. So how do you make sure that people can still maintain your voice? And I've been to your website. I love the language. I love your energy vibration. And you speak on your website like a lot of my clients speak to their clients. Like it's very, high energy, but down to earth, and fun and funny, but impactful.
Yeah.
And I think that there is that fear that when they delegate, they're going to start to sound too corporate-y. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as a copywriter who used to write copy, one of the things that I did with my clients when I was writing, and this is, these are launch campaigns, right? We are sending out 25 emails, and they got to sound like the client, because otherwise their subscribers, their people can tell, like, oh my gosh, this is not John. Yeah. This sounds like someone else, right?
Yeah.
So one of the processes that I would take them through was I would do a deep down in what their voice looks like. So I would get their samples on copy. What are their written communication look like? And, I have a detailed process there too. All right. What kind of a voice archetype is this? Is this a yogi? Is this a happy person? Right. So there are different ways to kind of like dissect voice too. Once I would get that, I would be like, all right, based on the single paragraph, like how many times, what is the lingo here? Like what terms do they use? And, what is their energy? What's the tone? So that would take a separate call, I think you and I.
Right.
There's so much you can dissect right there. Like,
right.
And so in my current business as a fractional CMO, if I see that the client does not have that, one of the things that we could work on together is to develop a brand identity and a voice guide. And if they have a copywriter on their teams, I could kind of lead them like, hey, this is how you develop a brand identity. This is how you need to create an SOP for the client's voice guide. Like, how do they talk? What are the things that you can talk about? What do they like? What they don't like? And it's a detailed SOP and a guide. And once you have that, and then you can say, all right, I've got a copywriter who understands my voice. They know how I like to communicate, how I send out my weekly newsletter, what needs to be in, what are the words that I use. Once they have that boiled down, they can start like kind of replicating that. And then and here's the thing I want to tell people, entrepreneurs, you're never going to find an exact mini you, right? There, you have to kind of let go of that. Right. I think if it's at least 90% like you, I think that's good enough. That's great. You've kind of got to let go. Like, all right, it's never going to sound 100% like you because you're not the one who wrote it. Sometimes you can. Sometimes you can have this unicorn copywriter who gets it down to a T. But sometimes you're not. 90% is good enough. And that's when you kind of like, do a check-in like, all right, am I really going to get like wound up because last week's newsletter had this one word that I never use? Yeah. You make a note of it and you probably tell your copywriter like, hey, let's not just do that. But I think the sooner you untie yourself out of that, micromanagerial thing, the better off you are. But have an SOP in place to kind of like, all right, this is the groundwork that we can agree to.
Yeah, I really like, and for sure, this could be a whole different interview. Maybe we could do that sometime in the future. But I really like when I'm delegating stuff is I'll take a sales page, like save to a social media manager. Yeah. And I'll say, I want 25 posts from this page and images that, I say, pull out what speaks to you and come up with some images that go along. And doing that allows like their creativity. And then also when I see their creativity, I can go, okay, that looks like me. I never would have thought of this other thing for me, but I actually really like it. Can you change this one word? And so I think it gives the freedom to the person. And then you have the enrichment of benefiting from their creativity. So
I love that.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us how people can get in touch with you? You are just a remarkable woman and have such, great skills and heart that you can bring to people's businesses. So tell us how people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, for sure. So there are two ways to work with me. One is if you go to thecopycrew.com. I don't offer a done for you copy, but I do copy audits. So I will audit your sales page or email funnels. So that's one way to work with me. We do a lot of optimization work. The other way is if you want to hire me as a fractional CMO, you just go to my website. It's www.Amisha Shrimanker, first name, last name.com. And then we can jump on a call, 15-minute call, and see if we are a good fit to work together. So. Yeah.
I love that. So we have talked about so much here today. What is the one big takeaway that you want people to have when they leave? Like maybe the one actionable thing that they can do or the one thing to kind of hold in their heart?
I think I'm just going to repeat what I just said a little earlier in our conversation. I think delegate sooner. Yeah. Find your genius, stay in there and delegate as much as you can. Because once you do that, that's when you really, scale. That's when you leverage your time, you leverage your business model, and you can kind of like make a deeper impact.
I hear this big collective sigh of relief when people hear delegate sooner. They're like, yeah, I needed to hear that one more time because I really need to do that. Well, thank you so much, Amisha. I really appreciate you here today. And thank you to all of our listeners. I appreciate you and have a beautiful day, evening, morning, wherever you are in the world. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sheri. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And sure. Visit SheriKayhoff.com. That's SheriKayehOff.com for more podcast episodes, or you can say, Alexa, play the Sheri K. Hoff Show. This podcast is syndicated globally, and you can listen anywhere where you're listening to your other podcasts. Some examples are Apple, Google, Podlink, Podcast Addict, Spotify, and many more.